Ah, you obviously know Kung Fu.
Welcome to the Kung Fu Drive-In Podcast. Adjust your speaker box, sit back, relax, and remember, your Kung Fu may be good, but mine is better. Joining me today on the Kung Fu Drive-In Podcast, award-winning director, filmmaker, award-winning martial artist as well, and we're going to get into all of that, SHAUN Paul Piccinino, right? Piccinino, is that correct?
Oh, you got it. You got it. It's tough, man. I know it's a tough one.
There's a lot of syllables in that one, so I'm glad I got that one right.
So many Italians and their syllables. I'm actually trying to finally learn Italian right now.
Oh, nice.
In case some future projects we might shoot out there.
Very cool.
But anyways, so I'm trying to learn it, and I'm just like, there's so many syllables. Why do they got so many syllables? But yeah.
Awesome, SHAUN Paul Piccinino. Thank you again, SHAUN, for taking some time to chat.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor.
Very cool, very cool. So, SHAUN, I want to get into some of the work that you do. I got to chat with you a little bit on Threads and on Instagram. A fan of some of the things that you've done, and you've done some really cool stuff. So, I know you've got a film coming out tomorrow, The Island, starring Michael Jai White. Michael's been a guest on the show a couple times. Big fan of his. Talk to me about what goes into putting The Island together.
Yeah, so The Island was put together by producer Felipe Martinez and with his co-writer Michael Casey. And he approached me kind of early on, like the early draft of the script. In fact, actually, it wasn't even a full draft yet. But right from the get-go, it was Michael. So we were both talking about, we want to do this movie with Michael Jai. And of course, Felipe was telling me about filming in these Caribbean islands, which he had been doing for a couple years at that point, or maybe a year or so at that point. And I'm like, well, that sounds amazing. Get paid to go film a movie in the Caribbean. You don't have to tell me twice. So it was very obviously exciting prospect to do, and to be able to do an action movie again, because it had been a couple years. I have been exploring the rom-com space. Don't ask me how I got into that, but just friends in the film business, and they're like, "Hey, would you want to film this rom-com?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So, anyways, kind of got into that. Had some great success there, so I've been having fun with those. But I was really, really excited to get back to doing some action, and obviously with some amazing casts like this. So. That's kind of how it manifested, but it was always Michael from the get-go. That was the very first conversation. And luckily he liked it enough and wanted to come, do the movie.
Yeah. Speaking of those rom-coms, it is interesting in going through your IMDb, because you are doing The Island. You did another film with a guest that I had on, American Fighter, I believe, with Sean Patrick Flannery.
Yeah.
So,
another legit martial artist.
Absolutely,
right there.
and great philosophy that he has too with regarding martial arts in life. But like you said, you did films like that, and then you have like California Christmas and Holiday Harmony.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I mean, you clearly have ability beyond any certain boxes, right?
I hope so, and I've got all sorts of genres I want to film. I'd love to do some like medieval fantasy thing. Any kind of period piece I just think is super cool. But yeah, I don't want to be stuck in one box. I'd love to do some more science fiction too. Obviously action mixed into that. I'm just having fun with it. My bread and butter was more the action side of things. But like I said, I did the amazing company, ESX Entertainment, that I did American Fighter with. They were obviously doing a bunch of different movies. And in fact, American Fighter was kind of their first foray into action. And that's how I got brought into the fold on that. And because they had never really done action. So I did that movie with them. And obviously we all got on, and they must have liked what I did. So they offered me another movie, but it was like a coming of age rom-com. Like it was nothing like what I had done before. And luckily that one went off well. And then I ended up doing Lady Driver, which was kind of another teenage coming of age, but still has comedy relief. And obviously there's like race cars in that one. So still some action. And that kind of just led down that path until eventually doing, California Christmases, which those have had the biggest success of anything that I've done, which is, just cracks me up. I never would have thought I'd be making Christmas movies. But, when you find a film family that you love and people you really love working with, and then you do this stuff and it actually, reaches an audience that really appreciates that. It's like no better feeling in the world. So I'm like, now kind of my goal is, let me do like a rom-com and then an action movie and like kind of go back and forth, and maybe we'll sprinkle some, some sci-fi in between.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I want to touch on a quote that was on your IMDb page, because I think it probably applies to how you approach these films, right? But I think you said, from great sincerity comes great achievement. Is that your approach with the films that you do, given that you rom comedy to an actioner to something else? Where do you find that sincerity in all of these particular projects to make it what you want to make it?
Yeah, I think that martial arts has been a part of my life since I was really young. I think I started training in Shorin-ryu karate at 11 years old. And I got a black belt in that system. I also trained judo at the time, a little bit of Aikido, dabbled in that. And then over the years, I've trained in like Muay Thai and kickboxing, and then of course jiu-jitsu and BJJ. And then I also ended up training a very traditional Shaolin Kung Fu system, which I absolutely adore, and Southern Shaolin. And I ended up getting a 4th degree in that system. And my Shifu, my master, my teacher in that system, that's where that quote comes from. And it was in the context of, when you're facing, heaven forbids, an opponent, a real one. I guess even in competition, this would apply, but it's having that sincerity in your actions, being genuine in how you're striking. And he also taught that you always respect your opponent, even if it is unfortunately a villainous person trying to hurt you on the street. You still have respect for them in life, and the balance of those teachings. And that's where, and understanding how incredibly powerful you are. You have the power to take a life, and you have to respect that. So just wonderful philosophy, wonderful teachings. That's Master Steve Pisa, who imparted that wisdom on me, and that's where that quote comes from. And I do apply that in not just in filmmaking, but in all walks of life. And I find in the stories that I want to tell, whether it's action revenge flick, that I'm always trying to find that sincerity in the characters and the sincerity in the story, right? Which comes back to again, it's like that heart. You know what I mean? It's that that humanity, even in the crazy antics of an action revenge flick like The Island. The core of it is family and the love you have for those people and the heart behind it. And so I'm always looking for that. I don't know if I always accomplish it, but that's the goal at the end of the day.
So what about those instances where you don't quite find it? How do you get through making that film still true to your vision and not phone it in?
I think I always find it. Yeah, even if it's something so outside of my wheelhouse. I wouldn't be able to make it if I can't connect with those characters in some way. So life experience obviously comes into play, and I also think having a lot of empathy. I grew up with an amazing family. My parents both so accepting and loving and supportive, and I think that kind of mentality and growing up with those kind of life lessons, and we dealt with a lot of loss as well in the family and all of those things. But I think that kind of empathy helps me to find those redeeming qualities in whatever the project is. And that's all I can really do is I can just try and give my authenticity to it. And at the end of the day and try and pour love. And that's also how I try and lead the set, is through kindness, through compassion, through passion. You got to have passion for these projects, and and just try and treat everybody with as much kindness and empathy as I can.
You've got some great testimonials on your page from some of the actors that you've worked with. So for anybody out there, go over to Shaun's page and you can see some kind words from Shaun on working with him. I think he said he would work with you twice or something like that. So
yeah. We've done like 3 movies together now, and we're already talking about several more. So yeah, it's that fun thing. I had such a great time doing that movie, the first one, American Fighter, we were talking about. And Tommy Flanagan, I absolutely adore him. He's an amazing actor and just such a solid, awesome guy. All those people, Casper Van Dien, who I've done now like 6 projects with. It's that kind of thing. Like you find these camaraderie. Also like Christina Moore, I think I've done 7 projects with her. It's when it's that thing where obviously, what each other are capable of. You trust each other, and you guys got each other's backs. It's like that's why you see Spielberg's working with the same cinematographer for 30 years, or those kinds of things, or the whatever it is, Adam Sandler and all his casting crew that he works with, or Seth Rogen's, or any that's what happens. You find these people that you really care about, and they care about you, and they support you, and you guys you build these because you can't make a movie on your own. Like, contrary to popular belief, even like Robert Rodriguez, who shoots it, edits it, does all the music, directs it. He still has a team of people. It's a community of people that bring these movies together. And so at the end of the day, you got to find people that you really can trust and care about to spend this much time with them too, because you're spending in some cases years at a time working on a project.
Hold that thought, because we do want to go back to that a little bit later, but I want to get to your martial arts. Do you still train?
I train, yes, but not like super consistent, unfortunately. But I've never let it go. I still even do katas. I still practice katas from my Shorin-ryu days. So yeah, I don't ever let it go. I have the whole family at the gym, and we do jujitsu and sometimes Muay Thai classes and stuff like that. So I am trying to keep some of the tools sharp still, but I am pretty rusty, to be honest with you. But I just love it. So anytime I get the chance, I will jump in and train. In fact, with Michael, I'm going to try and jump in there with this awesome trainer. He's also a director and stunt coordinator, Arnold Chong. Nice. He's awesome. So I'm going to try and jump in and just get my butt totally kicked by him and Michael. But that'll be fun. That's, I was always okay with being in the karate. I was always okay with being the uke, which is, the person who gets thrown around, and, and I felt like I learned more that way. I learned all the pressure points and chokes and all the things by experiencing it. I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now, So I'll let them beat me up, and I'll just have a smile on my face the whole time.
I think anybody that gets into the ring to train with Michael Jai White winds up being the UK, whether they want to or not.
It's true. It's true. Hey, by the way, yes, on set he did do the non-telegraph slow punch and got nice. Everybody. Nobody could get their hand out of the way. It's yeah. Pretty fun.
That's cool.
The whole stunt team was trying it out,
I asked that because you do have a stunt background, right?
Yeah. I come from stunts. What's interesting is I grew up in the theater. My dad was a drama professor. He directed 2 plays every year for like 30 years. He produced Shakespeare in the Park. So I grew up classically trained. I grew up on and behind the stage. And he brought a camera home when I was, 10 or 11, something like that. And I started making little short films, stop motion. So at 16, it sounds wild, but at 16, I started writing and directing commercials for like local mom and pop shops. Cool. So that's kind of the origin of that. I learned editing. I learned so many things doing those commercials. And to this day, I still shoot commercials every once in a while. But from there, when I came down to LA to pursue the dream, I made my own short films. We shot some music videos. We did all that stuff all the way till going, this friends and family going, let's just make a feature. Like, doesn't even matter what it is. We didn't go to film school, so let's do our student film. Let's do from start to finish. Let's make a feature. So we were doing all of that, but then at the same time that was happening, I started getting some work doing stunts because of the martial arts and because of the people that I trained with. And so it kind of fell into that, and just doing, stunt work, like fight action type of stuff. And then a lovely gentleman named Noel Vega, which I thought he hated me, but he didn't hate me. He actually liked me because then he took me under his wing. I started doing some fight choreography for him. So that's kind of how the stunt world ended up starting. And then I doubled for him. And then he gave me my first stunt coordination gig. Because he was producing on a film as well, because he also does that. So then from there, I ended up being his assistant coordinator on a TV show called Deadliest Warrior. And I then got, through opportunity and circumstance, I was, and because Noel was so gracious to allow me to step up, I got to second unit direct that show.
Cool.
And so I was directing the action, which then led to me fully directing a couple episodes on that. And then, the rest is history from there. But so interesting. It's like the stunt world. And we also worked on a bunch of video games over the years. Noel, I think, has done well over 100 games, but I've done in the neighborhood of like 45-ish games, including Call of Duties and all of that. So I've assistant coordinated with him. I've assistant directed on those. And then I've done stunts and full performance capture. So, really, really interesting, like education on all these different things. And now a lot of that tech is in movies. Obviously, James Cameron bringing that stuff into the avatars and creating new technology, which then the video games borrowed that technology from him. So it's this really, really interesting and cool journey to kind of get to experience all that stuff. And so then through that second unit, then kind of full directing, video games, stunts, all that stuff, leading finally back to directing features and a couple of TV series in between there.
Cool. Speaking of Deadliest Warrior, who was the better William Wallace, you or Mel Gibson? To be honest.
I think Mel crushed me on that one. That was, so what's really funny about that is, Mel and I, neither one of us are that big of guys, but I think the real William Wallace was a much bigger dude. Let's just be honest. But I actually went to the Wallace Monument in Scotland and saw his sword and all that cool stuff. I geeked out on that pretty good when we were over there. But that was so interesting because I was helping coordinate on that show and then second unit directing. And I can do a halfway decent Scottish accent and have a bunch of Scottish friends. So that's how I learned the accent. And the audition process, we kind of helped because, people had to know the action part of it, the stunts, to do that show. And so just tape after tape after tape, the network wasn't liking what they saw. And dude's way bigger than me and buffer than me and all that stuff. But I'm like, you know what? And I had a beard and I had long hair at the time. I'm like, I'm just going to throw myself on tape and see if they like this. And then I also put together a little sword fight scene. So I showed them, okay, I got this and I can do, and there's not really any dialogue in the show anyways, but just to show them the character and everything. And they're like, oh, cast that guy. We like him. And I'm like, but I said in my email, that's me. I'm like, are you sure you guys want to cast me? And they're like, yeah, you're perfect. Do it. And I'm like, I'm directing that episode. So now I have to direct it and awesome. Act in it and, kind of painted myself a little bit in the corner. But of course, such awesome people around me. So they made it all, happen. But yeah, and there's also, I got a bunch of friends like, there's no way you would have taken out Shaka Zulu. And I go, look, it's just the armor. I'm like, that was the difference. If William Wallace didn't have chainmail, Shaka would have jacked him up, But yeah, that caused a lot of debates with my friends and calling me up when that episode aired. They're like, this is BS.
Those two-headed claymores, those giant swords, they're huge. Those things are huge.
Yeah. So like the kind of gross thing about it, what they're really made for is taken out legs of cavalry, right? Of horsemen.
Right.
So, and obviously Wallace used it to intimidate, I think, is what that really was. But yeah, they're really, I mean, and even our stunt ones were hard to wield, and they're like, they're aluminum. So they're, half the weight or maybe even less than what the actual sword was. But yeah, seeing the actual, one, supposedly his actual sword in the Wallace Monument, you're just like, it's even bigger than the ones I was using. I was like, wow, it would be intimidating seeing if he was like 6'5" or something, 6'4", 6'5", wielding that sword. And, the average height of a English infantryman at that time was 5'2", 5'3" or something.
Yeah.
So you can imagine seeing that dude coming and wielding that thing.
Slightly imposing.
That would have been. Yeah.
Well, on that note, talk to me about the state of stunts and martial arts and action in film today in light of success of films like John Wick and Jason Bourne and Mission Impossible and things. Because with Chad Stahelski and the whole 8711 crew, stunt guys really have put themselves in the spotlight and done some really cool stuff for films and rewrote the template for some of that stuff. What is your take on how that's developing?
Yeah, look, I think that in our modern era of filmmaking, you got to just everybody loves Keanu Reeves. You got to just tip your hat to him too, because he went to bat. He went to bat for Chad and director of the first one. He really believed in them, and obviously they were friends for a long time. Starting on the Matrix series and everything. But it was really his belief in pushing them forward that they could direct it. And honestly, why can't they? But a lot of times in Hollywood, what happens is you kind of get put into a little box and everybody wants you to stay in that box. And clearly these guys can direct feature films. They're doing all the biggest stuff now. And like J.J. Perry, he's now directing big movies. And I used to do stunts with him back in the day. It's so cool to get to see that stuff. And honestly, it's because Keanu really went to bat for Chad and all of that with the first John Wick. But then, of course, you go back. Really, you've got the Jackie Chans, the Sammo Hungs, all of those people were huge influences, I think, on all of us growing up. Kind of being actor, director, stunt guys, and then you go further back. You got the Buster Keatons and stuff like that. It's always existed. It's just that weird thing where then, they go, no, you can't do that. You're only a stunt coordinator or your own. Yeah. It's like, no, it's weird. But in our modern era, you got Stephen Chow. He's another one but Keanu Reeves, thank you for allowing us stunt people to step outside of that box and get these opportunities to, tell these bigger stories. And obviously, when you got big action set pieces, there's no one better to do that. And if you just look at second unit direction on a lot of those big movies, it's like that is this action director is directing the action, and 90% of that movie is action. So kind of do the math. But yeah, so it's fun, exciting prospect, and I'm really excited to see where the stunt community goes next with directing. There's a lot of great stuntmen and women that are stepping up into those roles. And I'm excited to see where it goes.
Speaking of that, when you look for talent to work with, how do you discover that talent? Are you like keeping your eye on YouTube personalities? Is it just word of mouth, or are people like actively sending you reels and hoping that you see something in their action for you to cast them? Yeah.
So I, believe it or not, I keep every single email. And if there's like videos, if they're like direct sends, not YouTube clips, or whatever, I'll download them. I keep them in a file. The stunt community is really great that way. They all hustle and send you stuff. So I've got, and that community is, it's ever growing, but it's also small, so we all kind of know each other and we all recommend people and all of that. So as far as the action stuff goes, it's just kind of a constant influx of new people and old people checking in and, friendships and all that kind of stuff. But same with acting. I get sent a lot of reels and I get sent a lot of, from writers as well. I get sent a lot of scripts and I keep all of that stuff and keep them kind of organized, writing and stunts and acting and all that. And, it's always that constant thing of, the project comes up where somebody might be right for it. You go, oh, check this out, and then a lot of times out of left field, somebody comes and auditions and, you're like, that they just did something I didn't even think, about for that role. And they'll win a role that way. But also in the casting process, what a lot of people don't understand, it's, I'm one voice of many that make those decisions when you're casting a movie. So on the action side, I tend to have a little bit more sway, but yeah, it's a community of people that make a movie. You can't make a movie on, by yourself. I mean, I suppose you could if it was just you in like a room or something. So, but yeah, it's that interesting thing. And especially like if we're doing a movie with Netflix or HBO, then it's a whole team of people. And of course I have a voice and I send my opinions and, I'll fight for, people that I think are really right for the role, but it's a process and there's a lot of people involved in making those decisions. So I do get asked that sometimes, like, oh, why couldn't you just cast whoever you want? I go, I mean, if it was my millions that I was putting up and I wanted to just make my own movie, then I'm sure I could cast whoever I want. Right. But yeah, it's all a very interesting process.
Yeah, it's a crazy process from everybody that I talk to. There's always some kind of red tape that you have to go through. And sometimes you actually have to, put your foot down and fight for the things that you believe in. Do you encounter that a lot? Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not a lot, but it's happened. And I've fought for people for roles or, whatever, even if it's in the writing process for like, certain character arcs or whatever. Yeah, you've got to go to battle for what you believe in. But you also, this business and telling stories is a collaboration. So you've got to, understand that it's not always going to be exactly how you maybe envisioned it originally. And for me, most of the time it evolves into something that's even more beautiful than where my brain maybe thought of it at first. And part of that is keeping that open-minded, collaborative mindset, I think has served me well and it helps me continue to grow and get better with each project. Because that's my goal. I think maybe from the martial arts training is understanding I'm never going to master any of this. I'm only just going to keep getting better, keep evolving, keep growing. That's what I'm trying to, appreciate.
Always the student.
Yep. Yes, exactly.
Now let's talk because we're recording this the day before The Island drops on the streaming services, starring Gillian White, of course. What can you tell us about this film? What's the story? What's the setting? Bring us into it because I'll be tuning in as soon as it's live.
Yeah, so this is one of those, kind of classic tales of revenge, right? So Michael's character, Mark, a cop, a detective, and his partner, played by Jackson Rathbone, who actually brings a lot of levity and humor to the movie, because it is the tone of the movie is pretty serious, but Jackson is kind of that snarky partner to Michael's more hard-nosed detective. So he finds out his brother has passed away, and he now has to go back to his home island in the Caribbean for the funeral. And once he gets there, he finds out that there was some, possibly some foul play in his brother's death. And through, being a cop, being a detective, he starts unraveling, how his brother was actually killed and who's responsible. And with the help of some of his family and friends and his ex-wife, played by Gillian White, real life wife to Michael. That I think this is their 6th or 7th movie they've done together, and they're just so awesome to work with. I love them both to death, and can't wait to collaborate with them again on something in the future. But so with the help of his island family, he sets out to take out the trash, so to speak. And you have Eduardo Costa, who plays the main villain. And he's really, really deliciously evil. He's wonderful, wonderful actor. Such a nice guy, like all about meditation and peace and love. But he plays such a nasty bad guy, and I always love that. I love, that's what acting is too. You get to play. You get to, be who you're not in a lot of cases, and he certainly encompassed that in this movie.
Talk to me about working with Michael Jai White. I mean, he is a larger than life character. I mean, he's just huge. That guy's imposing. I stand next to him at shows, and I'm like, I don't know that I'm ever going to get out of your shadow. But but what was it like directing him, knowing that you were gonna let him cut loose and do some of the things that he does best on screen? Yeah,
again, super easy collaborator on all the character pieces, and obviously he's bringing his own thing to it. He had ideas, like, would I really say this here? Like, it doesn't feel genuine to me. I'm the type of director, I'm like, I don't want you to just read the words on the paper. I want you to, have that, live that experience, make it your own. Because if an actor believes what they're saying, then the audience will. If the actor doesn't believe what they're saying, the audience obviously won't. So I always, push for that. And so collaborating on those kinds of things is really easy. He's super easy. Gillian, Jackson is awesome. So that kind of makes my job easy in that department. And then with the martial arts action, we also have stunt coordinator Ron Balicki, who's also a martial arts like royalty. Absolutely. Trained, with the best of the best. And that whole stunt team, they're all legit martial artists and stunt actors and stuff. So and then Michael, he knows his stuff, like, with the choreography and all of that. He's always going to bring his own flavor. And of course he's got ideas. He's like, oh, I blocked this, I hit that guy. What if I duck under here? So it's that. And again, it's a collaborative, like melting pot of martial art nerds, that are making these kinds of movies. It's just so cool, and sometimes I just step back and I just look and I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's cool that I get to be a part of this, and thinking back to like that 11-year-old who just watched Enter the Dragon and nice. Karate Kid and decided I wanted to get into Dragon Fist with Jackie Chan, to get into martial arts myself. From that to then being here on the set and seeing these pieces come together, I'm just like, it's pinch me, I'm dreaming.
I mean, Ron Balicki, like you said, martial arts royalty, that puts you just a few degrees away from Bruce Lee himself.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
That's crazy.
Amazing. And they're also wonderful too. The Inosantos, just amazing folks. His daughter is just awesome human.
Now, when that's going on, how involved were you with designing the action for the film? Or is that one of those instances where you're like, you guys know what you're doing, put something cool together, and then let's, like you were saying, let's collaborate and let's see what you guys come up with.
That's like impossible for me, being a martial art nerd. I let Ron do his thing and his team come up with stuff, but they're so cool too. Like, we all stayed in the same like complex. So, and he was like 3 doors down from me. So he's like, you texted me like, hey, you want to come over and see what we just came up with, the knife fight? I go, yeah. So I hop over there and then they show me, and I might have some ideas for camera angles. I go, maybe it's cool if he swipes for the leg here at this part. And then Ron's like, oh yeah. That'll be super cool. He'll reverse grip, slice them in the leg, So it's just that process. I'm always involved with that stuff. Even if it's not an action movie, it doesn't matter what it is. I'm so passionate about filmmaking that from production design to whatever it is, I always want to get my fingers in there and just be a part of it. Not to go in there and try and take anything over, but just to be involved and to see and to, just be a part of it I'm like a kid in a candy store, but especially with action and martial arts. Then I'm really like, ooh, let me jump in,
Well, that's interesting because with with some of the guys that I talked to, stunt coordinators, action directors, things like that, one of the bugaboos that always comes up is once they are done, designing the action and filming it, it has to go into editing, and it does not always come out the same way that you put it in there, right? So it can be a catch-22 because you kind of have to, like you said, work with that team and trust your team to bring your visions to life, but sometimes some things get lost in translation. As someone with an eye for action, do you stay involved with that particular end of it and make sure that it is as close as it can be to what you saw when you started filming?
Yeah, so I can touch on a couple points here. Number one, what happens a lot of times when you're working on a film or a TV series, and you're the stunt coordinator, they're filming dialogue for 9 of those 12 hours or 10 of those 12 hours, and then they will turn you guys loose. And then by the time you're filming, you got an hour to like do this whole huge sequence, right? So that happens all the time. That did not happen on this film, you know, or the action movies that I do. I'm very, very coherent about that. Like, oh, we got this action sequence. We need it. It needs its own day. Like, I don't care how we got to rearrange, you know, the dialogue stuff, the talking heads, we can get done fast. You know, yeah, big emotional scenes, yes, give them their time. But, you know, for a lot of that stuff. So I am very cognizant of that and I don't want to rush the stunt team at the end of the day, and people get hurt, mistakes get made. Like, we're going to do those things right. Now, that said, we're still on a tight schedule. We're not a big budget movie. So, you know, we're never going to be able to get everything we want. You know, like we did motorcycle chases in this, and I did not have a lot of time to get that. I wish I would have had a whole dedicated day to be able to do this motorcycle chase. We just out of time and money type of thing. And whenever possible, I'm involved, really involved in post. And this one, I did get a fair amount of involvement in post, especially when it comes to the fight scenes, because editing fights are very tricky and a whole art unto themselves. I do all the little things to make them feel snappy and dynamic, and the punches have more power, and the sound design for fights. So just about every fight sequence that I've directed, I've personally had to go in and do sound design passes, because coming from that world, every movement I want to have a sound. Every lead to the punch, every lead to a kick, every, you know, body motion, there needs to be some kind of design element that makes you feel that emotion and movement. So I get very heavily involved in that. Editors usually hate it because I'm like, you know, 37 layers of sound, you know, with 4,000 sound effects in one sequence, you know, but I am like, I get really into that, because to me, that makes or breaks a fight scene. You know, you've got to, the editing can't be loose. You know what I mean? That stuff has to snap and pop and you know, teeny tiny little speed ramps and certain things, you know, make a neck break feel like it's got more zing, you know? So yeah, I get super into that.
That's awesome. Particularly for those of us who are fans of the 70s Kung Fu flicks, man, the sounds were what made those fights really come to life for us.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, in terms of action or martial arts films, do you have a dream project or a dream cast that you want to work with, that you want to bring something cool to life on screen?
Yeah, I mean, I have several. I have a project I've been developing for a couple years. I can't say too much about it, but it's in a kind of a Mad Max type world, where we can combine all sorts of stuff. So sword play, martial arts, superpowers, like, you know, all of these things. So that is one of my super close and near and dear projects to me. That would be a dream project. And of course, I want to get some of those actors in there that can really pull that stuff off. There's honestly so many people I'd love to work with. Keanu Reeves is definitely on the top of the list. Michelle Yeoh, of course, would be high on that list. Keanu, I'd just love to work with because he's just such a good dude, you know. And we've crossed paths at 8711, you know, and all of that. He's training jiu-jitsu or whatever. But just, you know, how he takes care of people. Like, I think more than anything, our mindsets align in a lot of those ways. So for me, that would be such an honor to work with someone like that for altruistic reasons, not for even just filmmaking reasons, you know? So yeah, I mean, I haven't done anything with Scott Adkins yet. I'd love to cast him in something. Of course, I want to work with Michael and Gillian again. Trying to think. I know I'm going to forget stuff. Of course, I would love to work with Jackie on something. I mean,
sure.
I don't even know what it would be, but I don't even care. Just you know, work with them. So yeah, I mean, you know, there's the list. I'm sure is way bigger, and I'm just not thinking of everything right now. But the Raid. What's his name?
Eco.
Yes, I'd love to work with Eco too. Yeah. That'd be so cool. Outside of action, what's so interesting to me is like I really want to work with some of these people. I don't want to be morbid or anything, but some of these greats before they're gone. I think about that a lot. I'm like, I want to work with Anthony Hopkins. I want to work with, I'm just such a fan of film and all of that I'd love to work with some of the greats. That's always the dream, of course. But there's so many great people. I'd love to work with Viola Davis on something. I just think she's a phenomenal actress. Shoot, I know I'm blanking, but there's just so many amazing folks.
Well, what is a next project coming up for you that you can talk about? What's something what are a few things that you have on the horizon that you can talk about?
Well, they're all still in the development stage, but I do have an action adventure movie that we're looking to film in the Philippines.
Cool.
Of course, there's all sorts of stuff going on with the industry right now, so certain things are on pause. But once we're able to move forward again, I've got that action adventure, which I really like. And again, there's humor in it, but also, high octane action. I have a kind of existential science fiction movie that I've been working on, and we're, again, as soon as we can start working on it again, we're very close to moving forward on that one. Which we would most likely film that down under, so in Australia, with some amazing partners down there. And then I also have a couple rom-coms on the deck again, and one that I really, really like. And I worked quite a bit on the script as well on that one. I'm not the original writer, but they were gracious enough to have me come in. I had some ideas. And so I got in there and did a bunch of rewrites with them. I really, really like that one. That one's set in Brooklyn. So hopefully we'd shoot some in New York. Maybe we'd move some of it to upstate New York or somewhere else for like interiors and stuff you can then cheat and fake. But I definitely would love to shoot some of that in Brooklyn. It'd be super cool. So yeah, that's, that stuff's it's all developing, and I'm getting excited about a couple of those taking off. And then of course I write as well. And so I have several writing partners, and we're constantly developing things. Of course, some of those are on pause again because of the strikes.
Yep.
But they're all in various stages of development. I have a heist one that's really cool too. That one's still a little bit out, but that one's super cool. I really would like to do a few different heist movies because I have a few different ideas. I love everything from Ocean's 11 to the Italian Job to The Sting back in the day. I just love that stuff.
Oh, The Sting is one of my favorites. That's a great movie.
Oh, thank you. A lot of people don't know that movie because it's fairly old now at this point. But yeah, that's one of my favorite heist movies.
Yeah. And that was Robert Redford and Paul Newman, and I can't remember who else it was, but so good, so good. That's
their mark in that is I'm gonna forget his name. Robert, is it Robert Shaw? The guy from Jaws.
Yeah.
He's the captain in Jaws. Yeah, he's like. That guy is such a chameleon. Every role you see him in, you don't even know that's the same actor. I didn't know that for years that he was in The Sting. And then somebody said, "Oh, that's the Jaws captain." I go, "What?" I love that. I love that movie. Also, The Inside Man was another great one. Spike Lee.
Yeah.
Clive Owen, I'd love to work with. I think he's cool. Highly underrated. He's such a good actor. So yeah.
What about strapping on the pads for some stunt work? Is there any of that in your future?
Oh man, every once in a while I'll get asked to come do something. And,
really?
And I'm not like jumping off buildings anymore or anything that. But every once in a while, I'll jump in. I'll do some fun stuff. Some martial art action or some sword play or something. I'll come die for you. It's all good. And then I actually do still stunt coordinate if I'm in between directing films. Usually it's for, friends that I've worked with over the years, and they're like, "Hey, are you available for, to come stunt coordinate for a week or two?" That kind of thing. And usually it's pretty light stuff. I just did some snowboarding stunts on a movie, but pretty chill stuff. Nothing like too crazy. But yeah, I always have a blast with that. What's so funny is now, kind of, primarily focused on directing for the last like 6-7 years. The pressure you get with directing is the pressure you get with stunt coordinating is huge too, but it is another level kind of directing. Now, maybe if I was, working on, Michael Bay movie or something, then the pressure of being the stunt coordinator would maybe be higher than I've experienced. So I haven't done those kinds of things. But the things that I do, it's almost like a relief. I'm like, oh, I don't have the pressure. Like that director's got the pressure. Like I'll come do the cool fight scene for him, and then we're in and out, and I just like, this feels good. Like and also I'm not going to be working on this for the next year and a half. It's like, I come in, I do my job. I will help in the post with the edit of the action if they want me to. And I push to, because as we talked about earlier, always trying to make sure that action really sits right. And, but yeah, I get kind of excited at doing the stunt coordination jobs now, because cool. It feels like less pressure, even though that sounds crazy. No.
Well, speaking of that, then what should audiences take away from The Island? And again, that hits streaming services tomorrow, Friday, July 21st. We're recording this on the 20th. Tell us what, as an audience, we should be taking away from The Island.
Yeah. So, so that movie, I know it's going to be digital, VOD, like all that stuff tomorrow. I know it's like iTunes, Vudu, Redbox, and it's very limited theatrical release. So if it happens to be in your town, you want to go check it out. But what I want them to take away from it is that we set out to kind of show the beauty of this amazing area, kind of juxtaposition with the brutality of and violence of the crime that's and that crime is not really at that island, just FYI. It's such a nice, peaceful little island. But that's kind of the story we're telling. It's that balance of these two opposing worlds, and finding that kind of harmony and peace in the middle. And so we tried to tell an action story that has heart. At the end of the day, that's what we're doing. It's and I think a lot of the best tales, even like revenge and vengeance, the core of that is at the heart of that is love. And that's a love for family, love, and the pain of loss, which I think everybody can relate to. Even if they haven't had loss in the way that Mark experiences it in The Island. But everybody can relate to loss. Everybody can relate to family, and everybody can relate to those themes. So, and hopefully they just enjoy it. That's at the end of the day, that's all we really can hope for, is that, if it affects somebody in some way, then that's awesome. Even if they don't like it, but it still affected them in some way. It's like, we do our best, and that's all we can do,
Awesome. Shaun, thank you so much for taking some time to chat. I wish you the best of luck with The Island tomorrow. Best of luck with the rest of your career. You are full of great sincerity, so I have no doubt that great achievement will be coming from you sooner rather than later. So thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And yeah, it was awesome to be on here. And anytime you'll have me back in the future, I'll jump at the chance.
We will absolutely have you back. So please stay tuned to the Kung Fu Driving Podcast, and I'd love to have you back and talk some more.
All right. Thank you.
Poison Clan rocks the world.
Walking to the tea house, ready for some action. Drink a little wine, we getting drunk and then we're fighting. Ha! This time it's war. We smash the place up with a dragon claws. We're walking to the tea house, ready for some action. Drink a little wine, we getting drunk and then we're fighting. Ha! This time it's war. We smash the place up with a dragon claws. I see the iron-fisted monk from the daily prayers. Shaolin monks on their hands running down the 1,000 stairs. The fatally Khan now's in King Hu's hands. With the fearless Aida roaming over the land. Yeah, the little big soldier is older and wiser. He wants a world of peace because he doesn't want to fight, yo. Got the venom mob laying down the law. Bruce Lee delivered kicks, guaranteed to break jaws. Fight for the cause, then pause, hear applause. Not the end back kicks will defeat the outlaws. Very good, but balls don't hit back. Yeah, the death jewels here, Derek Yee's coming back. The Tai Chi master, Jet Li's even faster. Could chant a little drink because he is the drunken master. Once upon a time in China, Rosamund Kwan is real fine, but see Maggie Chung is finer. Golden Swallow has arrived. Shang-Chi movies, will the hero will survive? We got the brave archer make his way to the top of the mountain, gonna fight, may as well pick the spot. Yeah, the sky goes black, cause the vampire's back. We got Lam Ching Ying to kill them all, so stand back. He plays the black magic on the soul of the sword, and our sword will travel until his body's on floors. Yeah, Wing Chun, Shaolin and Mantis style. Yeah, defeat the enemy and watch him run for miles. Blood will spill now on the mountain tops when we bring back the soul of the legendary Pops. Welcome to the tea house, ready for some action. Drink a little wine, we're getting drunk and then we're fighting. Ha! This time it's war. We smash the place up with a dragon claws. We're walking to the tea house, ready for some action. Drink a little wine, we're getting drunk and then we're fighting. Ha! This time it's war. We smash the place up with a dragon claws.
See, it's a game of death, yo. You're facing the big boss. It's once upon a time in China, counting the tick-tock. The shogun, assassin, slashing blood or just drip drop. The head kick, neck chop, violence that won't stop. Wanna kill Bill, better get the assassins. He's got Irma just in yellow, but she is in the dragon, but in the tea rooms. That's where it'll happen. She got the bodies on the floor. When the blood, it'll splatter against the wall. No fear at all, to kill them all. There's always blood spilled when you head into a war. Fearless, unleashed. The fist of legend that they call Jet Li. I'm Bolo Young, yo, will always be a beast. You rumble in the Bronx, yo, I'm rumble in the streets. And it's simple, see the facts are these. There's only ever gonna be one Bruce Lee.
Welcome to the tea house, ready for some action. Drink a little wine, we're getting drunk and then we're fighting. Ha! This time it's war. We smash the place up with a dragon claws. We're walking to the tea house, ready for some action. Drink